Hey guys, well, welcome to Drawing with Jole, episode 2. We will be drawing Asura today. More specifically, we will be drawing an Asuran character called Drömme. Drömme? Complicated to say, but basically the story on this is Chronicles of Tyria not long ago had its first anniversary. We've been a guild for a year, so we had a little Chronicles of Tyria party, and in which we had a costume contest. So there was one winner per race, and well, this is the Asuran winner. So the next Drawing with Jole, I will be choosing one of the other races that we have. So I have not decided which one it will be, but we shall see. So today we'll be drawing Asura. So basically, like last time, just get a Photoshop file or whichever other program you're using. Choose your resolution. It depends what you want to use your picture for. I always put a high resolution because then you can do more stuff with your drawing. You can print it after and it turns out nicer. Make sure that when you zoom in it doesn't go all blurry and such. So basically I started off with, once again, a little sketch underneath. I always prefer having a tiny sketch underneath when drawing something digitally. It makes it always slightly easier, I find. So this time I did it on paper and just took a picture of it with my phone and put it in on a background layer. Put the opacity down so be able to draw on top properly. So feel free to either, I don't know, use this drawing as a base or quick sketch your own, whether it be digitally or traditionally, or just have something in your background unless you feel comfortable really starting something from scratch. I know some people are. I kind of have a tendency of wanting to start with stuff underneath. I find it makes it really easier. So just do the outline. Don't worry for lines overlapping. You can always erase them later, especially if you're using different layers. Then it makes erasing things so much easier. Before in the video, if you saw, like, there was a little like box around one of my lines that I could just rotate it with. It's the transform tool. If you select basically the layer, or you can select a region inside of that layer with the select tool, you can then use Control T, which will transform. It's just a little tool for those who are new to I guess Photoshop, that allows you to scale and rotate your selection or layer as you wish. You can also transfer it with lattices, but don't really use that here. But you can, I just used it to rotate the line, because sometimes with a tablet you have an easier time making a line in a certain angle, and it's kind of hard to make a perfect one in the other way. So instead of trying to spend hours and hours of redoing and redoing lines to make them 100% perfect, well, might as well make a line that looks nice in one angle and just rotate it after to make it fit. So that is something if you're having a hard time with getting like perfect lines. I know it's complicated sometimes when you're new to using tablets. It's hard to get nice, straight, smooth lines, because drawing on a tablet surface is not the same thing as drawing with pen and paper. Since the tablet surface is smooth, there's no grain like paper, sometimes it makes it hard. So it's always a great little tool. And if you're having a hard time too, we're going to be using a bit of the pen tool, the Photoshop pen tool, later on in this video. So I'll explain that when we get to it. But that is like works wonders if you don't have a tablet, or even when you do. I still use it. It's amazing. So we'll get to that in a bit later on though. So just continue the outlines. You do not have to make as many layers as I do. I really abuse on them. Make a lot of layers. That's just to make sure that if I do make a mistake, it's easy to erase and that it won't interfere with other lines. So it's a precaution that I take, because you never know. Little eyes, big eyes. Asura has really big eyes. So again, again with the transform tool. If you select on your layer, again you can do the full layer or just a selection of the layer. If you click Alt and then use the on the top completely in the toolbar, you have like a little arrow tool. If you click on in the middle of your screen where the layer is and you drag your mouse while clicking Alt and that little arrow, it will kind of duplicate your layer. So that's what I did for her elementalist sign on her head, on her forehead, since I didn't want to redo the shape twice. So you duplicate it and then I use the transform tool to make it smaller and just place it on the side, since the gem in the middle has the same shape. So very handy. So this is the pen tool. Sometimes I have a hard time making a full like straight line that was broad, like really wide for her band properly without like little lines and squigglies in it. So pen tool is amazing. You just use a simple pen tool, click once where you want it to start, click once where you want it to end. Then you can insert one of the transformation points. If you right click on the pen tool icon, you can change it. It's, instead of create like a new one, you can add on. So I think it's the second option. Yeah, I think it's the second option. So click on the second option and you add the transformation points into the line that you created, and you can just move it around, make the curve that you want. And once you want to fill that line, right click and stroke. And if you want to do like I did, I put simulated pressure. It makes it that it is thin at the tip and wider in the middle. So it makes it like if someone drew it, but yeah. So it just makes it really easy. If you're having a hard time with a certain line, you can't get it in the right angle or the right curve, shape, the pen tool is a real lifesaver for that. I've used it many times. Even though I have a tablet now, instead of using a pen, I used to draw, instead of a mouse, I used to draw a lot with mouse, and the pen tool saved me so many times. But even now, I find myself using it. Very practical. Very, very, very practical. I'd say it's one of Photoshop's most useful tools. So now that we've finished the outline, you can hide your original base drawing. Just close visibility on it, and I just grouped all together my outlines into a folder. After that, well, like I did last time with the little quaggan, used a picture for color referencing. So this time, well, since I'm drawing a specific character, well, I based myself on one of the screenshots sent me, so I'll be using that as the color reference for the picking of the colors as well. So for the coloring, no particular order is really required. I'm doing the skin first, and I'm not really taking into account the border lines of everything else, because, well, the skin is going to be completely under everything else, so regardless if it passes over on the sides, well, color is going to be going on top of it anyway, so you don't have to make every single tiny little thing perfect, follow the lines. You just have to know which layer is going to go on top of which. So see the color of the hair will be coloring on top of skin that overlapped. And I'm even just going to put the hair on top of the headband, because hey, the headband will be going on top of the hair. Why not? Color. Again, if you did all your lines completely full, you can cheat and be so much easier and use the paint bucket tool, but you have to make sure all your lines were closed. And once again, make sure that you double check on it if you use the paint bucket tool, because in tiny little corners, like for the tips of the hair, the paint bucket tool will not fill them properly. You will have to pass over that yourself manually. So I'm gonna do that by hand myself. Really wasn't sure how to do her braids. I've never drawn braids before, so didn't exactly know how to go about it. I'm pretty happy how they turned out though, nonetheless. But feel free to use your own method of braid and hair drawing. There are so many ways of doing it. This is just but one. Little forehead color. I did put outlines just so I'd know where to draw that color on her forehead. I will be removing them in just a second there, because I don't want a little black outline on her forehead. It was just because the skin was going to be drawn first, so just to make sure that I could see it. So that's gone. Now for the t-shirt. Nice royal blue. And then we color on top of the shirt. I wasn't sure what to do for the shirt exactly because there are different shades of red, but I just opted to color the whole thing, and then we'll get into detail with this shirt after. So for now, it's just gonna be all this like dark red, reddish brown. And same thing goes for the jewel on the top. We'll just color over that after. And now for the jewel. I'm so glad that Elimer did such a good job in choosing all the colors. I have a hard time with coloring and color palettes sometimes, and her having designed all the color palettes on her character beforehand makes it so much easier. Thank you, Elimer, for doing a wonderful job. For your Asura, basically, you don't necessarily have to use the same color palette I'm using. Hey, if you have an Asuran character, go ahead and take a screenshot of that. It also makes very nice reference pictures. Make sure that you're not in somewhere that's too dark or too bright, because that will throw off the colors. But reference images are very helpful. I think my teachers will never ever tell us enough that how reference images are lifesavers. They will save you in projects. So I went over a tiny bit in some areas with the yellow, so just beauty of layers, you can just go back and erase the parts that you went over a tiny bit. Same things for the lines at the bottom of the dress. I made a mistake. There are actually none in the drawing, so I just went to go erase those as well. Nice orange peachy color. And then more royal blue. And again, a bit of yellow and orange that went out of place. Fix that. And here, well, just not to have to color everything, which I should have done this before, but basically just colored all the outline in blue, and then we'll just paint bucket the rest of it. And then just all we have to do is pass over the little lines there to make sure everything is filled properly. Makes it a tiny bit faster, so it's good. Enough to give her to eyes. Eyes should never be pure white. Well, nothing really is ever pure white in drawings or even in games, just models and stuff like that. There's never any pure white anywhere, so added a bit of gray in there. Same thing goes for black. Normally nothing is ever pure black. The only thing I ever put in pure black is the outlines of drawings, which then again, you don't even have to put outlines on drawings. I prefer putting them, but I mean, one of the submissions I had gotten in for the Quaggan contest, I mean, there were no outlinings in his drawing, and it still looked amazing. So it's an art style. It's personal. And color in her little jewel. After that will be the eyes, and then we can move on to shading. Shading part is where I noticed that I had way too many layers that I did not name. So add little details that are on her skirt. Sadly, I kind of chose an angle where you don't see them all that much, so there's only a tiny bit, unlike in her screenshot where you could see the full extent to the little swirlies on the side. But they're gonna still make them show up at least a tiny bit. Same thing goes for the other side. I I do like this armor set. There's a whole bunch of tiny little details on it that just make it quite pretty. And a little bit of shade. So we'll be doing a bit the same thing I did last time for the Quaggan video. We'll be hard shading some places, and then after that we'll be using the gradient tool. Just to remove the unified peachy color, just to make it a bit nicer. It kind of looked embroidered on it, so I just wanted to give a tiny little shadow just as the lines, like if they were popping a tiny bit out. And like last time, again, I just changed the mode of my layer to put it in multiply. You can also change the opacity if your color makes it too dark or whatever. You can just tone down the opacity. So I'm gonna make a new layer and add shading for the little blue flaps. And again, see, change the layer to probably multiply again and then put down the opacity. So here's what we're going to be doing with the gradient tool. Make a new layer. I selected the old layer, the outline of where it is, and then add as you see fit with the gradient tool. And again, you can change the mode of the layer, change the opacity on it, just to whatever it makes, whatever you think it looks nice. So just to get rid of a unified color in the back, just not to make it plain, give it at least a bit of volume, a bit of difference in the color. So same thing is pretty much going to go for every part in her armor set. So. Basically going to be repeating everything that we've done for the bottom part of the skirt for every single other part of the Asura. A bit of shiny light. Then we pass on to the shirt. And I also forgot to mention, I did group up all the colors that I'd done. I just put it in a folder called bottom, so that's all the bottom color is in that folder, just to tidy up at least a tiny bit my layers that are currently a mess. Please feel free to name your layers and be more organized. And then a little bit of shade again. Nice blue. And then I made another layer to put the shirt in. And then we start with the different colors that I was not certain to do on the shirt. So change the layer mode again there, so I could use the same color to shade the darker red and the lighter red of her shirt. So very handy. Keep the same color and do both. So add a little bit of shade. And after that, gradient tool again. So just play around with the modes, play around where you want to put your gradient tool. Just have fun with it. There's a lot of stuff you can do. And then, well, even if something turns out nice but you find it a bit too dark, just don't worry, you play around with the opacity. It's always there and it's very practical. That's a little gem. Even shinies. And basically then I just applied a blur. You go into the filters and you choose Gaussian blur, I believe that's how you say it, pronounce it. But I use that one. That's the blur that I use the most, basically. Yeah, and I just forgotten the tiny little detail on her skirt. So, yeah. Now I do believe we will be moving on to the skin. So, more simple hard shading. Let's put a little bit of shading under her mouth. And those ears. And then obviously we have to put the shading on top of her head, which is in a different color, and as well under her jewel that's on her forehead. And the same thing that we did for the armor, here we will also be doing the soft gradient tool shading, change the color of the mode of the layer, and then add some for the rest of the skin as well. Don't be afraid to use lighter colors or even a slight different tint or hue color that normally you're using. It just jazzes it up a bit. And now we will be moving on to the hair. So basic little shading for the hair. Hair sometimes I find complicated to do. Her hair style is fairly simple though. 2 ponytails and her hair is pushed back. So there are plenty different ways of doing hair. So this is about one again. So just a bit of shading, more than I do on the armor since it's hair, to not make it look like a complete unified yellowish blob. So add a bit of hair shading. We'll also be adding highlights to that as well. And her little ponytails. Again, really not sure how I was going to do them. Many different ways to do them. Change mode on them. Add a bit of shading. The gradient. And now we'll be adding a little bit of highlights. Basically the same thing we did for the shading, just add little strands of hair that catch the light. Just to jazz it up a bit. New folder just to clean things up. Now I'll have one for the bottom, the top, the skin. Now to add a tiny, did very basic shading on her headband. Nothing special there. Just since it's already really dark, just put a bit of gradient in it. Little highlights in the eyes just to give it a bit more life instead of plain bland black eye. And just give her a tiny bit more of a style that I did not give her in the original liner. So basically like last time, just take again the gradient tool, put it in the circular option, and then just put it under her and make a shadow. So this is basically the original sketch, and then here's what it turns out to in finale. So original sketch, don't need anything fancy. It was just a picture that I took with my phone, and then I colored on top of it in Photoshop. So easy done. Okay, so here are the contest entries for the sexy quaggins. First off, we have a little quaggin from Memory Burn. Secondly, we have one from Brahms. Third, we have one from Elimer. And last but not least, we have one from Jason. So I have, after careful decision, I've decided that, well, grand winner will be Jason. I really like the way that you colored your quaggin, and I kind of find it funny that he's wearing a kind of like bikini bottom wing cloth thing. He kind of looks funny, and he's trying to be sexy in his own way. He's a very special quaggin. But thank you very much for your submission, and I will be contacting you soon. Keep an eye on your email. I'll send you information about the prize. I'm very surprised at how much views my last video got. Big, huge thank you to everyone. And, well, here's the information, basically, next contest. Okay, so basically, like last time, there will be a contest for this video as well. This time, your goal will be to draw a cute little Asura in any pose you want, any style you want. Go ahead. It can be completely original, or you can base it off someone else's Asura design. It is completely up to you. You will have until the 16th of June, that is a Sunday, at 8 p.m. Eastern time to send in your submission. So you can send it to me at jolinar@chroniclesoftyria.com. I will be putting that name in the little doobly-doo description box, so feel free to check that out. And for guild members, if you're already on our forums, feel free to PM me, Jolinar, on the forums with your submission. So once again, digital, traditional, both are accepted. Send it to me on forums or by the email. It's up to you. Just make sure I get it before the 16th of June at 8 p.m. Eastern. The winners of the new contest will be showcased in the next video, just as this one showcases the winner and the submissions as well of the quaggin, the sexy quaggin contest. So I will be waiting for your submissions, and, well, thank you in advance to all those that participate. It's really awesome of you guys.